Louisiana's Governor Bobby Jindal is with us exclusively. Governor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Matt. Thank you for having me this morning.
It's my pleasure. I was reading a lot of articles on this one-year anniversary, Governor, and one phrase comes up over and over again. It could have been much worse. Another comment from an article this morning, it's not that the oil spill had no lasting effects, far from it, but the ecological doomsday many predicted clearly hasn't taken place. Is that the way you see it?
I think that's right, Matt. Obviously, there's a lot of unknowns. We're still doing a lot of testing and a lot of research, and only time will tell. But let me say a couple things. First of all, we live in a very generous country. I want to thank your viewers. Louisiana's been through quite a lot. We've been through 4 hurricanes, starting with Katrina. We've been through this oil spill. In the last 6 years, we're resilient people down here in Louisiana. We live in a very generous country. There's still work to be done down here. 300 miles of our coast continue to be oiled, but at the same time, you're seeing a great rebirth, a great recovery story down here. I'd invite your viewers, if you're a recreational fisherman, come down to Cocodrie, come down to Venice, come down to Grand Isle. Some of the best fishing you've seen in years. If you're sitting at home, I invite you to go out there and get some great Gulf seafood. It is the safest, most delicious seafood you'll ever find. If you're a tourist, come visit these coasters. They'd love your business. So, yes, there's work to be done, but the reality is we're rebuilding our state, coming back better than before. One of the side effects, one of the things we do need to recover from is the administration imposed a one-size-fits-all moratorium after the spill. We want drilling to be done safely, but we don't want to lose thousands of jobs down here.
Let me ask you a couple of important questions. Remember the talk about those huge plumes of underwater oil that were said to be lurking off the shoreline of Louisiana and other Gulf Coast states? What happened to those plumes? Where are they?
Well, you know, again, still there are 300 miles of our coast that continue to be oiled. We still have tar balls, oil mats that are resurfacing areas like Bay Jimmy and other areas that need to be cleaned. We continue to push BP and the Coast Guard to monitor those areas out there. So again, there's a lot of good news, but there are still areas that need to be cleaned up.
But are those
There's
underwater plumes a huge
to
problem? Did they disperse? What happened to those?
Well, again, I think it's not so much plumes we're seeing today as it's tar balls and oil mats. What's happening is with wave action, some of that oil is still out there. It's suspended. It gets freed up, shows up on the coast. So we continue to have active crews out there cleaning up that oil. The Coast Guard is supervising those crews. BP is paying for those crews. So you've got what are called tar mats and tar balls that are showing up.
Do you have any idea the long-term, or have scientists told you the possible long-term environmental impact from the nearly 2 million gallons of dispersant that was put into the Gulf around that oil spill? Do we know what that's going to cause in years?
One of the things we've required BP to pay for is long-term testing to make sure we know exactly what's going to happen. What we saw with the Alaska spill many years ago is it took years to see some of the long-term effects. So, for example, we're going to look this year to see the quantity of seafood, the quantity of marine life that's out there. We know that they've done over 1,000 tests on the seafood. Not one test has come back with any concerns for human consumption. But one of the things we've required BP to do on a rolling basis is to pay for ongoing science testing so we can understand what the long-term impacts to our environment, to our coast. One of the reasons we're pushing BP to invest in short-term, immediate coastal restoration projects is we know that time is critical.
Exactly.
There are things we can do right now to mitigate some of that damage.
While I have you standing right there, I've got to ask you a political question. Your office has said that you would sign a bill requiring presidential candidates on the ballot in the state of Louisiana to present a birth certificate to prove their citizenship. Now, is the reason you may do that to prevent any future controversies? Will you say right now to our viewers that you have absolutely no doubts that President Obama was born in the United States?
Absolutely, Matt. I absolutely believe he's a citizen. Let's be clear. Look, my disagreements with this president are not about his citizenship or where he was born. What I disagree about is his agenda. I think he's the most liberal president we've had in modern times. At exactly the worst moment, we've seen expanded spending, higher taxes, more borrowing, more government involvement in health care. What I've said about this bill is it's not a part of my package, but if the legislature passes it, and by the way, if they pass another bill that simply restates the Constitution, of course I'd sign it. If they pass a bill restating the Bill of Rights, of course I'd sign it. Bottom line, I believe he's a citizen. My disagreements with this president is not about where he was born. It's about his policies. It's about $14 trillion of debt. The fact that they've expanded the government's role in running healthcare companies and running car companies and running our healthcare, borrowing money that our children and grandchildren are going to have to pay back. He wants to raise taxes. I'd like to see us cut spending.
Those are topics we can have a lot of time to discuss. Governor, I really appreciate your time on this one-year anniversary of this disaster that unfolded in your region.
Well, thank you, Matt. And again, thank the American people for their generous support. Come down to the Gulf. I guarantee you'll have a great time down here.
We got it. Governor Bobby Jindal, thank you very much.